What the fuck is going on right now in your country, boys?
To be fair, mate, it's your country as much as it is mine.
I know. Do you think the new government's going to fuck things?
Personally, it could go one of two ways, really, isn't it? There's talks of capital gains tax going up by an additional 14% on your residential home.
The UK government treats tax evasion worse than murder.
HMRC have just recently introduced a software called HMRC Connect. I think they spent about, it was 3 billion on investing in this software, and it recuperated over 30 billion from all the people that had been avoiding tax. The amount of people that have been dodging, it's going to be problematic.
So welcome everybody to another episode of the J2 Hub podcast. This time we're filming in London, and I'm joined by a guest who was on the podcast back a year ago when we launched it in Dubai. So Rishi's been on this podcast before, and we had a great discussion on all things UK versus Dubai, property, and all kinds of funky stuff. I'm also joined by Simran Sahota, who's going to be talking about a very interesting topic today, which is inheritance tax planning and what to do with your money, or what to have put in place so you can protect most of your money. Guys, welcome to the J2 Hub podcast.
Good to be back, James.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Hobbs.
Sim, you're lucky to be on the podcast. I don't know how you managed to get yourself in, but apparently, according to Rishi, you do something that's very, very worthwhile. No, all jokes aside. Look, let's kick off by, I know when I landed back in the UK, Rish, first thing you said to me was, James, you got to stop with this hate with London and the UK. So let's just kick off with that topic. What the fuck is going on right now in your country? Boys, tell me.
Well, to be fair, mate, it's your country as much as it is mine.
I know.
Yeah?
Look, I'm genuinely, before we go on, for all those haters out there that keep saying to me, well, it's because of people like you, fuck off back to Bangladesh or Pakistan. Number one, I don't come from Bangladesh. Number two, I don't come from Pakistan. And I was born here. So look, genuinely, it does upset me when I see what's going on, because the place is starting to get pretty fucked up.
Well, look, it depends what angle you look at it from, right? Yeah. So today we're here to debunk all of these theories that everyone has about the UK, everyone has about this great country.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And the investment potential that this country still holds, especially people that have moved to Dubai now, you know, all the UK chavs. Not you, obviously. But yeah, you know, look, at the end of the day, you hear things on the news, you hear things on the media, social media, and it portrays parts of London, parts of the UK, obviously in a negative way. Well, the truth is that there is still massive investment potential. It's one of the oldest, most settled markets in the whole world. So I just think as this conversation progresses, we'll dig deep more, you know, into these sort of subjects and the intricacies of investments, UK versus Dubai, and obviously versus other parts of the world as well, which are quite which are hotspots for property investment. I should say.
Do you think the new government's going to fuck things?
I think, well, personally, it could go one of two ways, really, isn't it? When the budget is announced, I mean, there's talks of capital gains tax going up by an additional 14% on your residential home. Which means your inheritance tax could potentially be a lot pricier than what initially was first thought. So, I mean, my advice to everyone else is in that region, get your planning done before any legislation.
Oh, yeah, give us a fucking moment. You've only been on for 10 minutes. This is what you're trying to sell himself. But I know what you mean. I read something this morning, and it was saying that anybody who's got a property over £1 million might have to pay some kind of tax every year as well, something along those lines. That's going to potentially, that's what they're pushing for as well.
Well, yeah, it's all hearsay at the moment. So until the proof's in the pudding, no one really knows.
But how does that work for the elderly? People that have been sitting there, their house is worth £2 million, and now they can't even put their heater on. If they get hit with a tax bill like that, then what?
Well, this is why I'm advising everyone to get everything done before any changes are made. Because if you do your planning, let's just say prior to any changes, that is what's going to be relevant at the point of your demise. So it's the legislation at place at the point that the planning was taken out. So if the planning goes pear-shaped, I say the planning goes pear-shaped, but if the situation for the individuals goes pear-shaped, then they're in a situation where at least if they did something prior to the situation changing, they're in a better space than had they just left for the results to come out. Because it's the legislation at the point of that would be applicable, not anything that moves forward. So, I mean, the good thing about that is if you set something up now and the situation gets worse, you're in a better place.
Right.
But if you hold out and the situation gets worse, you don't have any fallback. So you got to ride the storm, I guess, in that case.
Yeah, but what if you set something up now and the situation gets better?
Well, then at least you've protected yourself in the event it's got worse.
At the end of the day, you're happy at the time when you set something up. The time, whatever criteria and legislation is in place at the time, no one's holding a gun to your head. You're the one paying for that and doing that at the time. So everyone that does this sort of planning is happy with whatever situation they're in. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. You can't say, "Oh, I've done this 10 years ago and now stuff's better."
Well, okay, guys, tell me something. Why haven't we got this in Dubai? Why aren't people worrying about their fucking estate in Dubai? Why aren't they not worrying how much tax they've got to pay when they die?
Well, it's a good question. They really should be worrying about it. But the reality is the UK doesn't want people to know about it that much, in theory. I mean, inheritance tax brought in 8 billion last year to the revenue. Now, if everyone was informed about how they can mitigate and do what they need to do, then a lot more people would be venturing as to how they need to get their planning in place. Because, quite frankly, the economy's dud. And if this is a cash cow for the HMRC, they're not going to be exposing how and what you can do. But
you know what? And they're lethal, because anybody, like, I've just gone for a probate myself. These fuckers don't give you nothing until they're sorted first. Until the state has got their bit, you ain't having nothing. They're not signing the probate off. They're not giving you nothing. They're saying, what do you owe us first? Let's look at your probate. What did this person owe us? You know, in the situation of my mum, they chased me for 23 pence. 23 fucking pence HMRC chasing you for.
It's funny you say that, but you know, I mean, the sort of complicated advice that you give and the trust and stuff that you write, you've mentioned before that if you've got stuff aligned and everything is in the right place at the time, when claims do need to come through, it's instant in almost all cases, like you've said. But if you've got to have the right planning in place,
and it's all case by case. And one person, it's not a one shoe fits all situation. I mean, let's just touch on the probate instance. Now, there's certain trusts you can set up without divulging into major details right now. I don't want to bore you to death, but there are certain trusts that you can put your assets into, which will enable at least what you've put into that trust to not be subject to any probate advance. So certain aspects of your estate can get sped up. The process can get sped up effectively.
Yeah, but the probate still has to kick in at some point, right?
Of course. And at least if people are aware, you know, there's ways to speed up the probate, then, you know, that's a good thing. But they need to know what it is they can.
So you think it's a cash cow for this country because it brings them in money?
Well, yeah.
What do you think? Anything bringing in HMRC and the inland revenue money?
Round figures, 8 billion is what it brought in last year. And think about it. UK inheritance tax is only subject to 4% of the population. Yeah. So let's just say, for example, there was a conversation, one of my clients was talking to me and he goes, I reckon they're going to scrap the inheritance tax. And I said to him, I was like, that's wishful thinking. Because if you've got the other 96% of the country that aren't subject to it, you got to somehow recoup that 8 billion. And do you think, I mean, income tax is already, it's a bump in this country, quite frankly put. HMRC aren't going to be able to spread that across the rest of everyone else. I mean, I don't see no changes occurring. And it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
They might potentially increase thresholds, but I mean, doesn't negate the need for planning. You know what I mean? Assets are still growing and growing. Look, in a nutshell, they can't recoup that 8 billion across the rest of the population. The rest of the population doesn't have the means. The tax is people are already screwed on income tax as it is. And then to recoup that money, it would have to go out to that remaining 96%. And that's going to cause whirlwind across everyone else. So
I mean, that's what I mean. Like in Dubai, when you earn your money, if you're employed, that's it. You get your wage slip, you look at it, and there's zero coming off of it.
Yeah, okay. Let's just go.
Hold on. Let me carry on. You got no capital gains tax. You got no inheritance tax. So there is no tax planning. I think the only thing people in Dubai do is make sure their will is straight to say where things are going. Otherwise, it goes into Sharia law. So anybody investing out there would have like a UK-based will registered in the court to say this is going to my kid, this is going to this kid, whatever. So nobody really panics about that out there.
I guess when it comes from a tax planning perspective, those are massive plus points. And I think every country would love to be able to not be subject to capital gains tax or inheritance tax. And that makes Dubai unique in that, from that aspect and perspective. But I guess, see, the thing is, you know, the argument here with tax planning is it's different. If you're talking investments, you're talking capital growth and the pace of capital growth and the risk elements, then it's a different ballgame. I think London has many pro points there. Whereas with Dubai, the market's only been able to grow how it has. And I think when there was drops, the recovery rates were nowhere near what the recovery rates were for London. What was that, 60% drop?
No, the recovery rate was quick. It was very, very quick.
But the drop was considerable, wasn't it?
Yeah, the drop was big. During COVID, the drop was big. But then the recovery straight out of COVID was huge.
Simran, just to fall back on that point about the IHT stuff, what about if people buy in Dubai or elsewhere for that matter, and they declare their properties? So if there's an individual who's bought 5 properties in Dubai, declares all of them with HMRC, right? Yeah, what happens on his demise?
Well, if he's UK domicile, then he has an obligation to declare all his assets for tax purposes.
So if he has already declared,
then whatever his wealth is, how it works with, I mean, Dubai doesn't have any inheritance tax, as Harps mentioned. So he'd only get the UK, the UK inheritance tax is still going to be applicable to it, regardless of the fact that it's in Dubai. Okay, so
that's going to, the dependent on that's going to be where he's domiciled, where his residency status is.
Yeah.
Okay. So if he's 100% resident in Dubai, then his UK portfolio is going to be taxed accordingly, but nothing in the Dubai. Nothing abroad would be or subject to
only the UK
laws. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people have this misconception: it's abroad, I don't need to tell HMRC. Yeah, and then a lot of people think they're going to get away with that. HMRC have just recently introduced a software called HMRC Connect. Okay,
this new supercomputer that they boast about.
Yeah, and they've teamed up with Land Registry, they've teamed up with Facebook, Instagram, they've teamed up where anyone you can think of that has a footprint on you are basically in contact with HMRC. So, and a lot of Indian government, other countries included, not just Dubai, they have connections with HMRC regarding any wealth that you've got abroad. Now, this software came into play a year ago, and when they spent about, I think it was 3 billion on investing in this software, and it recuperated over 30 billion from all the people that had been avoiding tax, and they haven't even introduced AI into that. So you can imagine that's how much they've recouped so far without the use of AI. Once AI gets integrated into their software, the amount of people that have been dodging, it's going to be problematic.
So I met some guys in Dubai that were ex-HMRC, old boys, and they spoke about this supercomputer, and they said the supercomputer doesn't work very well. Yeah, it doesn't work very well. And plus, Dubai's got a non-disclosure. They ain't telling the UK nothing when things are sitting in a company. You know, so there's all of these things to think about. And these guys that I want to name them, but I shouldn't name them. I'm not going to name them. But they said to me, they go, look, simple fact is, if you're taking it out of the UK, once it's out, yeah, it's fine. He goes, the minute you start to try and bring it back in, that's when you're going to start opening can of worms.
Yeah. If you think in the future you may need to bring something back into the UK, then why take it out in the first place? Why have that whole game of transferring companies up, transferring assets, transferring monies over? I think when eventually you'd want to bring it back.
I think what clients are thinking is they're thinking, okay, so I've got a UK based portfolio. I want to start investing in Dubai, and I want to bring those Dubai profits back to the UK, not the actual assets. So I think I always advise them. I say you want to treat those two as two different entities, man. Keep what you're doing in Dubai as Dubai. Keep what you're doing as the UK as UK.
The moment that money comes into a UK account, that's when
it causes a problem.
Yeah. And people need to ensure they're doing things the right way anyway. Because the way I see it is, fair enough, you might avoid a few years. As time has obviously shown, HMRC have progressively been clamping down on people. And they've been finding means of ways of getting around those people that have been avoiding. And you're saying these two HMRC guys, okay, yeah, the system doesn't work well right now. It's only a matter of time before it's a superhuman and it's shafting everyone.
You got to remember the UK government treats tax evasion worse than murder.
Yeah. And look, I think the simple solution to all of this is just making sure your tax planning is done, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've got your things in order, then you can sleep easy at night. You know what I mean? And then for those who think, do you know what? It's just 40%. I'll bite the bullet and pay that 40%. And you know what? I'm done with it. I don't need to worry about it. There's a lot more at loss than just the 40%.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I mean,
all the years you've worked hard. I mean, look, I think the race that is suffering with this the most is the Indians at the moment, because they don't want to pay money to take professional advice. I don't think our generation's okay, because our generation gets it. But if we go to our parents' generation, or we go generation before that, they think they're too fucking clever. And they've some of them have accidentally created this problem for themselves by buying a few properties here and there that are now a couple of million each, but they don't want to pay 20, 30, 40,000 pounds to fix the issue.
I was talking to James, a couple of people at the event yesterday. Or on yesterday. And same issue. Mum and dad, they think they know best. It is an Indian problem. I don't know how far or how deep it goes in, I think at least the last 2 generations. But the Indians always think they know it all.
I mean, I think they're badly advised personally.
Yeah. People are badly advised, really badly advised. I mean, typically someone wants to get this kind of advice. Their first point of call is, let me speak to a solicitor. Go speak to a solicitor who can talk about the legal aspect of inheritance tax planning. But when it comes to the actual tax itself, they don't have the regulation to back what needs to be done. So they'll say, go speak to an accountant who's the second professional who's now involved.
And he's got no clue.
Generally, 9 out of 10 of them, I mean, they have to learn and study about it. But when it comes to implementing techniques to mitigate, they don't generally know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they'll say, go speak to a financial advisor. This is the third professional now who you have to speak to. And the financial advisor, give or take, the majority of them, they don't deal with estate planning.
Yeah.
They're more inclined to try sell you some form of product, be it an investment or a pension or something. The estate planning needs generally get disregarded. Then you end up having to speak to 3 separate professionals who give you 3 sets of different advice, all of which contradict one another. And then when things go pear-shaped, they all start blaming each other. But if you come and see someone like myself, we're able to give the law, the tax, and the financial planning advice.
Yeah, because you're geared towards that, right? You're not you're not an accountant, you're not a solicitor. You're geared towards tax planning and legacy planning and all that.
Generational wealth. I mean, like I said, we're able to talk about all 3 fronts to ensure that none of the advice, overlaps one another and causes one another issues. So, I mean, that's the benefit of speaking to someone like myself in this situation and not having to go through 3 separate rounds of different people saying different things and just ending up more confused than you would have been.
I think if you ask anyone, even if someone wants to ask you, James, you've made all this money, you're going to make X amount of money in the next 20, 30, 40 years. Do you want to try and keep a hold of most of it or not? I mean, who would say no?
Yeah, no.
So
I agree with you.
So I think that just answers the whole question about wealth planning and the generational
let's just for
legacy
round
planning.
figures. Let's say your property portfolio is worth 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. Say 5 million, and someone said to you got to pay £40,000 now or £50,000 now to protect all of that and pay X amount of tax, and you're sorted. You don't have to worry about nothing. Why the fuck wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, if you got a 5 million tax liability, that's 2 million out of your pocket straight away. 50 grand to sort out 2 million is peanuts.
It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, it's negligible.
And you know what? Do you know one thing I also say? Accountants use this all the time. My accountant used to tell me all the time, Rich, I've got X, Y, Z clients, obviously no names mentioned. They're on the hook for 300-400 grand. They've had inquiries from HMRC, and you know what, like when HMRC, if they stick an inquiry on your ass, they're on you for 2, 3, 4 years. They want to know what time you wake up, what time you go to bed, right? If an accountant says to you, your liability as we stand is 500 grand, if I save you that 500 grand, I'm going to charge you 10%. The client will say, take 50 if I don't have to pay 500. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So I think in a way you're right, because they'll listen to the accountants of this world, the solicitors of this world, but when it comes to the actual people who should be listening to, they think, oh well, I'm being stiff for 40k here. Where if you look at the actual generational planning it provides, I don't think they're looking further on down the line.
People need to see the credentials, right, as well, to back up what's being advised on. So I mean, I can say the firm that I'm working with and consulting with, we're covered under professional indemnity insurance to give all 3 areas of advice. Now, if you ask who you're dealing with at that moment in time, do you have cover in the event of something going pear-shaped? They'll say, the lawyer will say, I can cover you from a law aspect. I can't cover you from a tax aspect. Or I can't cover you, the accountant will say, I can cover you from a tax aspect. I can't cover you from the law aspect. So if you come to a professional like myself, I mean, at least you've got the peace of mind and you're able to sleep easy at night in the event something does go wrong. We don't anticipate anything to go wrong, but for you guys to have peace of mind, at least you speak to someone like myself.
I think, look, both me and Rishi would agree, because we've both had a consultation call with your firm.
Yeah.
I think it's an hour-long call, and you know what? I was gobsmacked. My eyes were open to certain things that I didn't even know existed. You know, so I think for anybody listening, thinking, shit, I've got a problem, because there's a lot of people that have got a problem. Because when you're in your 20s, your problem is let's build the wealth.
Yeah.
Then you get into your 40s. Now you're thinking, fuck me, I'm going to get fucked for my wealth.
Yeah.
So, you got an issue now. You spent all this time building. Now you got to think, how the hell am I going to leave this without getting hit with such a big bill? So I think you'd agree as well, Rich, right? The call that we had with his firm.
I mean,
it's a big eye-opener.
now obviously that was eye-opening. As you can imagine. But now, obviously, we work hand in hand together, and our company's advice is sort of geared towards that as well.
Yeah.
So everyone that comes to us for any sort of financial service, any sort of funding, whatever it is, the Simran has to be, you have to have a call with Simran to discuss all that. It's just part of our planning process now. It's just part of our advice process. Because we think, look, if we want to advise the client the right way, and if he's come to us for X, Y, Z, then why would we bypass stuff in the middle? No, speak to Simran, have that consultation call as well. At the end of the day, look, it works for everyone. Not only does it help the client, but they're getting the professional advice. Simran, wouldn't you agree? Some of the people that we've had a chat with in terms of clients, they've come back to us and said, you know what, I can't believe that we've had this call.
Yeah, it's a common one, and obviously Rishi, and James, as well, that I'm an ex-mortgage broker myself, and it's quite common practice. What a lot of people will do is, to build affordability and ensure they can get the amount of mortgage they require is, I'll add my son onto the property. Now, or I'll add my son or my daughter, whoever it is, onto the property to get that extra borrowing power. And what they don't realise is, as a result of doing that, the thing is, Rishi, you're an informed mortgage broker, you obviously know this, but if you go to, not every mortgage broker knows this, is if you add someone else to your title deeds in this situation just to boost affordability, you've triggered a capital gains tax.
Because you've left them something.
Yeah. I mean, you've added that person on. Now they've taken whatever growth is now in their name. HMRC are going to come through that portion of the wealth, and the CGT bill is going to be slapped on that person. So as Rishi mentioned, you come to me, we're able to iron out situations like this. This is an example of one. There's plenty of situations where we've been able to get in front of the client first and iron out what's the best plan, in terms of how they need to appropriate themselves and get the right mortgage for them, So
look, to wrap this point up, let's say any uncle's watching this, or some uncle's kids watching this thinking, fuck, my dad's going to be screwed.
Yeah.
Because he's built a huge portfolio. Because I've been speaking to people recently where they've got 50, 60, 70 properties, and some of them have it in personal names.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would your advice be right now to some uncle or some uncle's son watching thinking, shit, my dad's going to get fucked? Or some uncle's thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do?
When they've got that level of property, there actually is things that we can do to actually help them. Because a lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to put my property into a company so I can pay corporation tax instead of income tax and, offset my mortgage interest and get those benefits that you would do from a company as opposed to your personal name. What people don't realize is that when you transfer from personal to limited company, you're also triggering a capital gains tax and
stamp duty,
right? Now, if you're a small-time landlord, it's not worth it for you. But if you've got, let's just say, over 10 to 15 properties in your portfolio, there are things that we can do to avoid that stamp duty and avoid that CGT and incorporate you into a company. I'm not going to spill too many beans right now, but
yeah.
I mean, for those who are subject to that situation, that's something you're definitely going to want to reach out to us about. So we can potentially save those portfolio landlords with the 30s, the 40s, the 50s and 60 properties substantial amounts on the SDLT and the capital gains tax.
Yeah. Okay. So let them reach out to you for a call.
Yeah. Reach out to me for a call and I can delve further into that and how we get around that.
Sure.
Because we've got ways to do so, definitely.
Okay. Mortgages, Rich. Let's talk about mortgages. Last time we spoke, the rates are fucking through the roof. People were shitting themselves.
The confidence is now back in the UK market,
Hold
mate.
on a second. Let me finish what I was about to say. You were saying to me at the time, people were coming off of 1-2% rates going on to 6-7. And, there was a lot of repossessions. People didn't know what to do. We quickly got over that because obviously we seem to be in a better place. But tell us, man, what's going on with the mortgage market right now?
Look, I think at that time when we had that conversation, if you was a seasoned investor, I was having that conversation with you, and you was like, Rich, I had my mortgage rates were 8-9% at one stage in the early 2000s, and maybe even higher at one stage. And you was like, this is nothing new to me, because I always thought as 4, 5, 6 being the norm.
Yeah,
it's only because we was in that 1.5, 2%, sub 2% bubble that everyone was freaking out. And the people that were freaking out, Sim, you'll agree, is all these first time buyers, all these young people who've never ever seen anything else apart from those 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, 2% mortgages. I think for landlords and buy to lets, it was a steal. Because obviously, if you was a landlord all the way through the 90s and the early 2000s, you would have seen all the rates. And then obviously to see interest rates that low, I mean, I've had conversations with you, and I'm not going to speak any numbers, but it's like silly what his mortgage payments were and as to what they are now.
Yeah.
So
it was at one point, it was 800 quid on one of the HMOs a month. And that was bringing in £6,000, and now it's 2,700, and it's bringing in
every time I email him, I'm like, laugh out loud at the end of the email, mate.
Yeah.
So now, just look at the end of the day, rates are plateauing now. They're starting to come down. Confidence is back in the market at the end of the day, And
what kind of deals are you seeing people do?
Everything.
Back to buy-to-lets? Vanilla buy-to-lets are back?
Vanilla buy-to-let. Definitely the stress testing is better on buy-to-lets, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean,
the borrowing capacity now is better than what it was a couple of years back.
Borrowing capacity is 100% increased. Affordability is definitely easier. I don't know if the term vanilla buy-to-let exists anymore. There's always some sort of
caveat or it.
Yeah, exactly. Bridging is still strong.
Yeah.
I actually work with a bridging lender now who will do the whole deal on an AVM. So we can probably
and an AVM for people who don't know.
So basically, it's an online valuation, no physical val needed. So when they run an AVM, basically, Sim, you'd know this, is that as long as they can determine a particular confidence score. So it's not like just an AVM that we would run, because we're able to run an AVM as well using Home Track. Yeah, but when lenders do it, there's a certain confidence score that lender wants to see. As long as they pass a certain confidence score, they're happy to lend based on an AVM, like I said. And deals can be literally wrapped up in 7 days. Literally 7 days.
For bridging.
Wow. But that's with a weekend as well. So...
and that's due to the connections you've got with particular providers. Because, I mean, I've been... as mentioned before, when I was a mortgage broker, I've done a few bridging cases here and there as well. And with certain providers, the length and period of time of getting things done used to take the piss, bruv. And I mean, and I know you were mentioning to me, with a few particular lenders, you've got connects in there that are able to help us, help us or help your consumers get things over the line with serious speed.
Yeah, I mean, with bridging... look, the main thing that holds things up in bridging is the legals. We will get you the money really, really quickly in terms of the offers, but legals do hold things up. Now, we've had cases where we've worked with partner solicitors where we've had to change solicitors because the queries that solicitors might have will be just really over the top and stuff, and the client wants to complete within, say, 14 days, 10 days. James, you've had deals before when you need to complete quickly on bridging.
Yeah.
So,
within a couple of weeks.
Legals hold things up massively. At the end of the day, once you've got the valuation, once you've got everything sorted and you've got like an offer, you want to wrap this up as quickly as possible. It's not someone that wants to move into their house. Developers, builders, they've got build teams on site. They want to crack on with their projects, etc., etc. So speed is of the essence.
What kind of deals are you seeing people do nowadays?
What, in terms of
property deals?
Do you know what? Multi-units back.
Okay.
A lot of multi-unit stuff. I've got a couple of clients, big developers actually, and their whole ethos is they will split titles and turn into flats.
Right.
So whether it's detached, semi-detached, whatever it is, just that's their whole strategy, just multi-unit stuff.
Okay.
They don't really do HMOs. They prefer just splitting into completely new flats under different titles. But yeah, you see that. I mean, you'd see a lot of standard buy-to-lets coming back into the market now, whereas about 18 months back, there was a bit of an issue with the affordability, with the lending. It was so tight. It just wasn't working. Buy-to-lets were technically dead.
Yeah. While the rates were so high, the amount that you could pull out on average was around about 50% LTV, which was a struggle for most people who needed to take out additional equity for whatever purposes, right?
And it's even worse, people know that if you guys have got property, investors, landlords, yourself, if it's in your personal name, if you're high rate taxpayers, you can forget about cap raising maximum on a remo, for example. It's just
Well, it's definitely more difficult, isn't it? Yeah.
So we're advising a lot of limited company lending. Stick it in an SPV, whatever you want. Everything's protected. You're protected. Affordability is higher.
I think that's good advice, just generally, from a tax planning perspective as well. Just for anyone who is looking to purchase buy-to-lets, get them started in that limited company straight away. I know there's a lot of discussion around, maybe your first one, stick in your personal, but if the long term is to, build a portfolio, then effectively any income you're getting from that first one that's in your personal is still going to get charged at your income tax rate.
Right.
So it is advisable for those still involved in property and doing more purchases, go down the SPV route.
So here's one thing I want to just dabble in. Residential lending, standard conventional residential lending is back to where it was. I mean, a lot of lenders have really broadened the affordability structures, whatever their calculations are and their calculators are, because about 6 months to 8 months back, if I look at my numbers just on residential, I'm probably doing about 50-60% more just on residential.
Right.
As opposed to 6 months back. So I think residential lending's good. The rates are coming down. They're sub 4s again. Obviously, if you're on certain fixed periods and that. So I think, if you look at young people.
So the confidence back in the market?
I think so.
I think it's definitely on an upward trajectory, yeah. For certain.
See, when you compare mortgages to what you got here, you got quite a lot of creative products. I think this is where Dubai is lacking with creative products. It's just a straight mortgage, depending on your age, 25 years, 30 years, 35
Is there bridging
years.
and stuff like that exist?
No, there's loans you can take from the bank, but it's not like bridging. It's not like where it can be instant. The loan's got to go towards something. They got to do some checks for the loan, etc., etc. I suppose you could use that loan money to build something, but there is no concept of development finance. There is no
I would have
concept
thought
of
in
bridging.
such an unregulated market like Dubai that there would be like private investors who have bridging companies.
I mean, there may well be, but I haven't seen any. But directly from the banks, you don't get it. Directly from the banks, so you don't even get an interest-only mortgage; it's a repayment mortgage. One thing I do like about them is they don't release any mortgages to any off-plan stuff. So they're protecting their market in the sense that they're not prepared to mortgage a piece of paper. Whereas I know some off-plan developers here would do that. And then when the project gets halted or doesn't get finished, then what happens?
Can you remortgage for business purposes?
What?
So if you if your villa, if it was freehold paid off and you needed, say, 150 grand.
Yeah, I could take that out.
You could take that out, but that would have to be on a repayment basis over a term.
And I take it you still have to justify your reasoning for wanting that equity in Dubai, right?
You do have to say what it's for. Most people will say it's for an extension, for a kitchen, whatever.
Yeah.
Generally it probably is, but you have to tell them. I mean, they're starting to get a lot more stricter. Before they didn't even have a KYC. Well, it was a very bog standard KYC. Now they got a proper KYC to make
When he said my KYC is one fucking page. He said my KYC is one page.
It is.
And half of that page is just name and address.
Yeah, it's very small. Very small. But then this is the beauty of having an Emirates ID, right? It's all linked to your Emirates ID tells whoever you're dealing with everything. So when you go into a government office and you're doing something, they pop your Emirates ID and take your fingerprint, and they know everything about you.
So what's not mentioned on your Emirates ID on the database?
Well, it's connected to your bank, so I guess they can probably see your bank balance.
No, what's not mentioned? What's not connected?
I guess in theory it's quite good from from an collating information perspective. If it's just one, because the administration process here is quite rigid and you have to get so much paperwork involved before you even
imagine trying to roll that out here.
Yeah,
there'd be uproar. And the fact that they've done it there.
Yeah. It's I'd say it definitely makes obtaining finance in Dubai probably considerably easier than it is here.
Well, yeah, you can get a mortgage easily, but then what about the people like, say, someone like me who wants to look at a villa that's 5 million to do work on to sell on the back end? If I was proposing a deal like that to you guys here in the bank, you'd be jumping all over it because it's got at the back end, there's comparables that shows what it's worth.
Well, you've done deals like that in the UK where you've needed a certain money.
That's what I'm saying. If you guys were dealing with the finance if we had your service for the things that we're doing in Dubai, then that would be great, man. If somebody comes up with a development finance arm or a bridging arm, I think it could do really, really well because people would need that kind of money, especially people like contractors.
It's going to be private financing if it does happen. It ain't going to come from Emirates MBD or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's going to be private.
You never know.
finances.
They might get innovative and see what's going on. They're always pretty forward thinking. But if you ask me, that's one thing that's lacking. I don't see why they can't do it. It's not as if there's a shortage of money, and there's not as if there's a shortage of people that couldn't have their own fund to lend it out from.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to how easy is it for people to follow through on their plans with what's available in Dubai, isn't it? And if it's generally easy to get what needs to be done, because I guess, in the UK, the buying process, you get one seller who says, no, if you don't get this done within X amount of time, then I'm not going to sell to you. So, I don't know how frequent, sellers are like that in Dubai.
Yeah, but
it's situations like that produce the need for bridging, right?
Yeah, but is that under contract?
Well, it can be stipulated in a contract.
So the way it works in Dubai is you have a contract A, contract B. One is the buyer's contract, one is the seller's contract.
Yeah.
He lists what he wants, he lists what he wants, and then they come together to form a contract F. Now, once your contract F is produced and you've got your 10% down liable on the line,
it's like an exchange.
Yeah, there's no pulling out.
Okay.
There's no pulling out because you're fully committed. If you pulled out, you're losing your money, and the other person can still sue you.
Interesting.
So when it goes to contract F stage, that's when you're locked in. Contract A and contract B is where you can still technically pull out.
So it's like until exchange of contracts here.
Yeah.
Before that, anyone can pull out.
But I'm talking MOU could be done in an hour. It's not as if you're waiting around weeks for it. It can be done.
So if I do an MOU to buy your house, I can't pull out then?
No, because you've signed it. Well, you can pull out, but you'll lose your 10% that you put down as a security.
10% of the deposit or 10% of the purchase
10%
price?
of the purchase.
Okay.
So if you decided after a week, sorry, James, I can't do this, I can't go with this.
So it's like auctioning over here.
Yeah. I mean, I could be nice to you and say, hey, here's your money back. But I could also be a cunt and say, that's your money gone.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of contracts and the way they do things and, exchanges and transfers, in Dubai, it's way more streamlined. It's very, very everything's done off apps.
Yeah, but why do you think that is? There's a reason for that. In any new market, I mean, if you look at the UK, for example, the UK is one of the oldest legal systems in the world. Now, I've had so many conversations with you about, especially bridging lenders, how they still want wet ink signatures on documents. Yeah. Now, is that because lenders just feel like, oh, we want to just see the look of a pen on a piece of paper? No, they obviously have some standard AML obligations that they're trying to maybe just for their compliance purposes, et cetera, et cetera. And you can, you know how easy it is to fudge documents. I mean, I'm not saying stuff is fudged in Dubai, but I'm saying if everything was just done on an app here, you'll find there'll be ways that you could, go around that. And I don't think the lenders have still got enough confidence in that system in the UK yet.
Mortgage fraud's a big thing, right, in this country. So, I mean, you get so many people that are producing fake documents and fake signatures when required to, get their situation over the line. So I think from, solicitors' perspectives, or even some lenders, they're old school and want wet signatures. Not all of them in particular. Most of your high street are a bit more with the times. But ultimately, these are... I lost my train of thought again. What was I going to say?
Because you smoke too much weed.
Do you need a coffee or something, mate? Huh? Have you seen your eyes? Your eyes.
About.
Yeah. Well,
no, it's the light.
Well, yeah. Ultimately, this is why they have those regiments in place. When you've got so many people around doing whatever dodgy business, they need to have some sort of satisfaction that they're doing enough to minimize that, isn't it? So
yeah. But I guess, look, again, when you're signing contracts, it's all... When you sign a contract A is raised from the seller's side, contract B is from the buyer's side. It's all linked to your Emirates ID again. So you can't fuck about because your Emirates ID is connected to your bank, it's connected to your employment status, it's got your salary certificate, it's got your medical history on there. So when you're on the app, when you say accept contract, they know who you are. They know all your documents are there. You see what I'm saying? So they've mitigated that. There's no problem. That can't happen. And the other guy on the other side has to do the same thing.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like the buying process is...
The buying process is wicked. If they could do that here, and then even on the day of transfer, when you go to the government office to do the transfer, first of all, they give you an appointment. You rock up, the other party's there, you sit together on the table, The woman will say, let me see the contract F. She sees the contract F. Let me see the manager's checks that are prepared to go to the other guy. Manager's checks of all kinds, but there's no cash transfer there. Manager's checks. And then the title deed is updated. Money is paid. I've never seen it be more than an hour and a half. The quickest I've seen is 20 minutes.
I guess comparative to the UK, land registry taking months and months and months to even just update records.
Yeah.
Again, Simran, land registry has its faults. I'm not saying it doesn't have its faults, but you have to understand how old this system is. Yeah. Something new in any country, especially with these Middle Eastern countries like the UAE, Qatar, etc., now even Saudi coming into the mix, is when you have a clean slate. Okay, anything you want to build, whether it's a platform, whatever it is, yeah, on a clean slate is much easier, and it's easier said than done, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, you compare it to the UK, you're not really comparing it to what it should be compared to. You should be comparing Dubai, the systems and controls in Dubai, to say the systems and controls in Qatar, or the system in controls to new cities like this. It's like, for example, you compare it to London, but I mean, I've heard what a shit show it is in some parts of the States. Basically, the developed world, which has been here since Kingdom Come, you can't compare stuff like signing documents and the way that legal parameters are sort of moved and stuff like that in terms of property purchases, etc., with these sort of countries. I don't think that's a genuine comparison. I don't think it's a fair comparison.
No, but look, why? Okay, so
it's another comparison, James, when people say, okay, if you go to Dubai, I mean, if you drive down Sheikh Zayed Road, you've got 12 lanes and 12 lanes or whatever you've got. I mean, look at the M25. Fucking hell, it's 3-4 lanes, and then and on top of that, one's always fucking closed. Yeah, but the M25. I mean, how long? When was the M25 built? When Dubai was just a sand dune. So in any new country, if I was to say, okay, there's a country, that's your country, it's called Jamesland.
Okay.
Yeah, you could build. Obviously, it's going to be.
So let me ask you a question then. How can the HMRC be so forward thinking with this master computer AI and all of that, but the country can't upgrade its system on how the legal bits are done for a transaction?
They can only upgrade what they're in control of, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, why can the system not be upgraded? If they can upgrade the system to fucking catch you for tax, why can't they upgrade the system where they make it easier for you to purchase a property?
One thing I've got to say.
Because why? Because
that's an interesting point.
This makes you 8 billion, like you said, right?
Yeah.
And what is this doing?
Jack. It's
aiding this.
No, so
right?
what I do think one thing that the UK government actually probably they have to prioritize heavily, but they do heavily prioritize it. I'm not saying they overly heavily prioritize it, but AML checks and mortgage fraud and stuff like that is a big thing, and I just don't think that it's the worst thing in their eyes. So some lenders are so backdated. It's like solicitors in the UK, signing deeds. You've done how much back and forth have you done with solicitors in the last 2-3 years?
Right, I had a client who's remortgaging here in the UK to buy a property. Yeah, his funds were due to complete. You know what they stopped the funds on? They said your insurance has been insured for 205,000. We need it for 206.
Yeah, but that's just a standard reinstatement value on a policy that can be done in half an hour.
Exactly, but how long did it take? 2 weeks, because they sent it back to the end of the pile. And this guy's fucking pissed because he's up against it.
That's a problem with a lot of solicitors in this country as well. Solicitors, there's only a handful who will actually prioritize what needs to be done in the way that it needs to be done.
Yes.
A lot of firms, you go to solicitors' practices and there'll be huge solicitors' practices, but your case is just a number in a lot of those firms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll notice if you're going to one of those large number firms, they won't charge you much, but then it's reflective in the service that you receive. So, for those who are purchasing and remortgaging and the, speed is of the essence, we always recommend, someone who is going to actually prioritize what needs to be done the way it needs to be done.
I mean, Simran, I have it as a sometimes you could say even terms and conditions when they come to work with me. You have to use our solicitor if you want stuff done quick. You want no interferences with any paralegals or interns dealing with your cases. We've got direct access to the partner. He'll answer my call on a Sunday at 7 p.m. I'm talking about Jonathan Eid, YVA, that's a plug. Yeah, at the end of the day, that can make or break a deal.
Yeah,
because in some cases, we can have the offer for you in days. And what happens? The legals, the conveyancing behind the whole process lets it down. That's where you need to be. That's where you need to make sure that your broker and your solicitor are literally on the same page with everything. Communication's clear. There's the same train of thought. And also, if there is an issue, you've got access to the client. Solicitor's got access to the client. If he's busy, if solicitor's on holiday and he said, "Oh, Rish, I'm on holiday 2-3 weeks, or even 2-3 days on a weekend. My intern or my paralegal is going to be dealing with this." No, I can take charge and get documents. This is what you want X, Y, Z to get over the weekend while I'm away, so we can rock and roll Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is what streamlines the whole process. And when people say, "Oh, I can't believe, from application to completion, it was only a month," or whatever it was, right? Yeah. It was mainly because the legals were quick.
Yeah.
Because the date that we've put the application in for the mortgage. I've been completely transparent with you for the whole process. And that if the application went in on the 20th, for example, and I had a mortgage offer for you on the 23rd or the 24th, in some cases, right, yeah, that's all black and white. Documents are being sent and received. After that, the whole case moves to conveyancing. That's when it all slows down. And then you get people coming to us, brokers, and saying, "Well, why is this slowed down? Why is this?" Well, I did tell you at the start, look, I recommended a solicitor. He's very reasonable, but at the same time, if you want to be tight and go and save £200 on conveyancing, use your own guy that's been recommended to you by, your uncle or whatever. He goes missing. Everything takes time. And now the whole deal is at a standstill. The vendor's pissed off. The agent's pissed off because they want to complete and get paid. The vendor wants to move on. If it's a chain, it's even more serious. So this could all basically make the whole deal collapse. And this is where I keep saying, the solicitor plays a major role. If you can work with partner solicitors, do so.
Well, I think that's good what you're doing, because you're streamlining the whole process of the client, right?
Yeah.
And for a client to fucking go anywhere else to try and save 100 quid or 50 quid.
You do see it, James.
Yeah, but I know. But they should think to themselves.
Some people don't have the means, but then this is the point of all of this, right? We want to educate people so they know how moving forward, if they have been in a situation where things have gone pear-shaped, that if you do use someone who knows what they're doing or comes from, a highly recommended source, then it's definitely worth following through on. So otherwise, you get all the repercussions we discussed about.
Yeah.
I mean, James, you've had some back in when you was based in the UK. With you used a few solicitors that you weren't happy with.
We used a solicitor ourselves on a deal. Remember that time? What was his name? I'm not going to say his name, but the one we was trying to get Kensington over the line, and that fucking disappeared for months on end. It's always the solicitors. I'm sure that when this paperwork arrives on their desk, they just look at it. See, what I love about Dubai, when conveyancing is needed on a secondary purchase, the conveyancer, he's not actually a solicitor, he's a trained conveyancer. And he ain't going to get paid to the day of the transfer, which is wicked, because his fee is paid when the deal is complete. So this guy has a rocket up his ass to get shit done. So when there's questions to be answered, when he needs to go to the developer, get an NOC, get this, check if these payments are made, he's doing it because he knows his money is only coming on completion.
Yeah, but it's the same in the UK. Obviously, you put monies on account.
Yeah,
but it's on the completion statement where the rest of the fees are.
I get that. I get that.
So, but the thing is, what you've mentioned, you're right. Okay, they've got that structure. It's almost like it's like a commission kind of thing that they earn or whatever. Yeah, and it's just on the back end. There's nothing on the front end, which I can see they're always chasing the carrot. So that's fine. That's where the speed and urgency comes into it. But if, for example, we was to tell you, if you go to a solicitor that we recommend, and I can push things quicker. For example, you mentioned just now, it goes under the pile. But what if I was to say, if you was a solicitor, okay, Simran, that's my client, James, I want you to prioritize this. Okay, what's the situation? This, blah, blah, blah. All right, no problem. I'll jump on it first thing Monday morning.
Yeah.
And you got another 50 cases there. Oh, Samantha, make sure that jumps on the front.
Yeah, but for us now, for me and Benny, if we've got a secondary deal on, we'll actually pay for the seller's conveyancing. Why? Because we want the deal to get across the line quicker. So if it's costing us $1,000 or whatever it's costing us, we will pay for that because we want the deal to get across quicker. And we know we're going to make more than that on the back end when the deal's concluded.
I don't think Rishi's going to be paying for anyone's legal fees in the UK, are you?
If the deal's big enough, mate, anything's possible.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to be learned from both places, if I'm honest with you, man. There's a lot going on. But yeah, it's just forward thinking, man. But
I mean, one thing that we should really get into is like you said at the front, when people shit on the UK. And I don't think that's right at the end of the day. You're shitting on the wrong place. At the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and tell people to invest, where to people invest. You know, you're a big boy. You make your bed, you sleep in it. And I think both places are good.
Yeah.
Both places offer different investments, right? Yeah. But I still believe, now offer pushback if you want, but London is the most settled market in the world. It's the market.
It's much older, isn't it?
Well, exactly. So if you think it's the most settled market, like you was mentioning at the event that you done on Sunday. Look, there's places in Dubai now which are hotspots. You know this. For example, the Palm. You've got whatever's good at the moment, whether it's the Marina, the Palm, JBR, wherever it is, and now all of a sudden you've got Dubai South coming into it. So people are pushing. Everyone that wants something high end right now is being pushed towards those areas, the Palm or whatever, if you've got money. But what about in 5, 10, 15 years? Like you said, when the airport is built, and when the whole city just comes south, right? Yeah, your whole landscape of that city is going to change. Where in London, that's never going to happen, because let's just say places like Muswell Hill, places like Chiswick, places like Wimbledon. I'm just thinking of upmarket areas in and around London. Places like Wentworth, for example, in Surrey, and parts of Essex and parts of West London, Kensington and stuff like that. These aren't just areas which have been very, very good areas for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They've been notarized areas since the war.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean by a settled market. It's the safest place to invest.
I get that.
And in a downturn, you're never really going to lose any money.
I get that, but then explain to me why. So last year the UK had 5,000 millionaires leave. This year we're not even at the end of the year. 12,000 millionaires.
Okay, I'll answer that question.
So the people that own these properties, these wealthy, you got to be a wealthy individual to be in these areas. Is the government fucking these people up that much that they're leaving?
Just because you see a stat that 5,000 millionaires have left the UK, it doesn't mean they're liquidating their UK portfolios and running.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
If you're a millionaire or even just a normal resident, if you're a non-millionaire, if you leave, you have a reason to leave, and that may be job opportunities, that may be tax reasons, that may be family. It could be, there's a wide variety of reasons.
That's what I'm saying
there.
to you. If the government's making it more difficult for these people,
But not necessarily, James. It might not be that the government's making it more difficult. It could be that, for example, you've got a husband, wife, and 2 kids, like you said, and one of them's and they're both doing relatively well. And his employment might move to Dubai, and he said, "Do you want to move?" They might be offered a job in Dubai. That man and his family didn't have a plan to move to Dubai.
Okay.
It just so happened. I know what you mean by stats, but when you look at stats and then you throw stats into a big bowl, that basically dilutes all the reasons. And it's easy for people to say, "Oh, well, 5,000 millionaires left the UK." I bet you your bottom dollar that these 5,000 millionaires are heavily invested in the UK and predominantly in London, and they would never liquidate. There's a reason why Qataris, Emirati citizens, Saudi citizens, and a lot of the Arab wealthy state citizens invest in London and places like Paris, but I believe London more. There is a reason for that.
Yeah, they invest, but on the same token, they're not living. If the clientele, I'll tell you.
Well, they live in the summer. They come here for the summer.
The clientele that I speak to now, they're not people that have got a job. They're people that have just got up and left.
Yeah.
Every single person that I'm meeting now in Dubai is either a business owner, they've got something going on. They're not people that have been offered jobs time and time again. Like example, I was speaking to a client this weekend. I was telling you where he lives in South London, got a very good business, does very, very well, but is fucking worried. Is absolutely worried that he doesn't want to be here no longer.
Yeah.
Worried for his children. Come on, man. Yeah, it might be the oldest fucking real estate market in the world and it's worth this. Qataris are investing here, but they're not living here.
You know, just on that point that Rish is mentioning about liquidation as well, you know, people thinking, "Oh, I want to sell up and just call it a day." Thing is, yeah, a lot of people are scared to do so because all the people that are in this millionaire range or these 5,000 that you've mentioned, most of those acquired property quite a while back. You know, generally, most of them would have picked up majority of their properties pre-2008. Right? Before all the regulation came into place. And if you think about all the capital growth that's occurred between now and then, a lot of these people are having to give up substantial chunks to capital gains tax. And that's a big reason why a lot of people aren't even liquidating, because they're scared about how much they have to actually lose. I mean, putting it into perspective, I had one client the other day, he purchased the property for, I mean, this was in the 70s, bear in mind, but it was like a 3-bed semi he purchased for around about, I think it was 14 grand in suburban West London. And it's worth, give or take, 500k, round figures. We're talking 125k is being lost to capital gains tax. And you think about how many people that have got 5 or 6 of these properties or even more, that's a lot of money to part away with just to liquidate. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, but at some point, inevitably, they're going to have to pay that, right? If they've got no planning.
There's capital gains tax if you sell. If you pass away, it's inheritance tax. You just got to have, provisions in place to ensure that you don't get subject to it.
Yeah, there's various arguments and various angles you can take this conversation in terms of why people might stay, why people might go. I think the main reason is people, if they do go, there's also hundreds of other countries that people go to, but because the conversation is obviously based on UK and Dubai here, I think the main reason, if you look at the demographic moving to Dubai, okay, and that's another thing you've mentioned. James just said, oh, well, there's always people, he meets people all the time, they complain, oh, my job is crap, oh, the food is crap, the weather's crap, streets aren't safe or whatever, yeah? What I say to people, and I say this all the time, if you don't like where you live, and that's where I'll give credit to him all day long, credit where it's due. James, he saw an opportunity and he left and he's never looked back. And I say this to everyone. I say, if you don't like where you live, get up and move. Go make that move. Fuck off. Because at the end of the day, I don't like to shit where I eat, and I don't want to shit on my own doorstep. At the end of the day, London and the UK has provided me and many others with a lot of opportunities to earn and become really successful. So I think if you really hate the place so much, instead of just shitting on it, why don't you just grow a pair of balls and move? Because that's what people like you have done. Yeah. And who can argue with that?
I think that's the thing, though. Not everyone thinks the same way. And it's human nature, innit? People love to complain about anything and everything. It's just, they're not the ones you really want to be associated with.
Okay, let's put real estate aside. Let's put all of that aside.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're thinking of investing in Dubai, we offer 2 services. Number 1, you can book a consultation call with us. Now, what this consultation call involves, it's a full overview of Dubai where we show you what's going on, where the new up-and-coming spots are to invest. It's a totally free call, so I highly advise, if Dubai is pricking your attention, get that call booked in so you can find out where to invest next. All right, you're not a father yet. I'm a father. You're a father. How safe do you feel with your daughter playing out on the streets and where you live? Would you let her play out where she lives?
Obviously, exactly where I live and where my daughter goes to school and everything. So I've taken certain decisions and stuff.
Yeah, so you wouldn't feel safe her going to school in your local area, right? That's why you've taken her to a different area.
No, not necessarily at all. I mean, at the end of the day, just because you send your kids to a school in a different area, it's not because you don't. It's not because you think they're not safe there. It might be because you think that the other school down the road is better on the Ofsted. I mean, you would know that having a teacher in the family.
Yeah, but there must be other reasons other than the school being. Because I'm sure your reasons were different than that.
No. I mean, my reasons were simple, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Look, I'm sending my daughter to private school. And at the end of the day, the private school location was at a certain location. It doesn't matter where I would have lived, even if next door to where I had lived, there was a outstanding on the Ofsted State School. Personally, that was me and my wife's decision. So that would have been happening anyway. Yeah. I could have lived in the middle of Regent's Park, but I would have still sent my kid to a school which I would have liked and I thought is appropriate. That's a parent's decision.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people... where you used to live in Aldersbrook in London, the primary school and the high school were both excellent. But there were still many people on that estate who sent their kids to private school, whether it was Bancrofts, whether it was Forest down the road. So at the end of the day, you can't say, oh, well, why'd you live in Aldersbrook and send your kids to private school? Yeah. Because then that doesn't make any sense, does it? People still live in areas that they want to live in, nice areas, but they determine... But
do you think one of the reasons is because you want your kids to have a different association?
Oh, 100%. It's nothing to do with the education.
So-
Obviously, it might be
So
10%
does that mean the
education.
association where you live isn't very good?
No, I think what I mean by association is if you look at the amenities that the private schools provide.
Yeah.
And the social clubs and whatever they do, it's very different to state schools. The sports that they play are very different. And the avenues that these kids have got, this is not me speaking, this is
It's
pure
not
stats.
so much the amenities. I'm talking about the people,
What about the people?
the types of people that
go
should be
to private
associated
schools.
with.
Oh, the types of people, I believe there's a difference as well.
So that basically means you don't like the type of people that are where
Doesn't
you
mean
are.
I don't like the type of people. It's a decision you make as a parent
Yeah.
that you prefer.
But I know that was a big decision on your list, right?
There was one of many decisions.
It was a big decision.
No, but it was one of many decisions. You can't
Yeah.
say it was a big decision because there was probably around 10 different
Okay,
decisions.
let me ask you a question. If there was a great private school exactly where you live and the demographics of that area were going to that private school, would she still have gone to that private school?
I would have sent to where she lived. Yeah, where I lived if there's a private school next to me
Okay.
like that.
And then the kind of people that live around there,
But
you'd
to
been
be
okay.
fair, if you mean if the private school that my daughter goes to was there,
Hmm.
well, obviously that's a
No,
no-brainer.
I'm saying if there was a private school in the area where you live
Yeah.
and the surrounding demographics were going to that private school, because where
Obviously,
your kid is, the surrounding demographics is a lot better.
One minute. If that was the case, then obviously I would have done the same due diligence as we did in this school. I would have looked at the area, looked at who's going there, spoken to the teachers like what we did. We would have went
Yeah.
through the same process and then we would have ultimately made a decision.
Yeah, okay.
That's how we would have done it. I mean, I don't see any different in terms of the decision making.
Mm. But do you feel safe with your kids where you are?
I mean, to be fair, right now I can only speak for where I live,
Mm.
and I can only speak for what's happening now. I don't have an issue with where I am. I feel safe. I think my kids are safe. I can't speak for what's going to happen in 5-10 years time
Yeah.
because I'm not a fortune teller.
So
But
if she was 14, 15 now, wanting to go to the train station, go out with her friends, go down to London, would you feel safe?
what I would do. So see, all these decisions, what people make about moving countries.
No, that's not the question.
One
The
minute,
question
let me
is,
explain.
Would you feel safe right now?
No,
if
let
she
me.
left the
I'm coming
house?
to that. I'm just coming to that. When people make changes, it's basically based around the kids.
Right.
Yeah. So even though people get job offers, sometimes people get job offers to go abroad, double their pay, but because the kids are settled in certain schools and stuff, they think, do you know what, I'll wait 5 years, let them finish high school and then go. A lot of these decisions are you determine them around your kids. They're made for the benefit of the children. So if you're talking about would you feel safe, I would probably do what any other parent would do. And if I had a 14-year-old daughter who wanted to go down the road to the shop at 9 o'clock at night, I'm sure you would do the same regardless of where you live. I would say, okay, jump in the car, I'll take you.
No,
Whatever.
I'm saying, no, that's not the question I'm asking you. I'm saying if your daughter was 14 right now and she went out at 7 o'clock in the evening, would you be happy with her walking to the train station, getting on the train, going out to London with her friends, and you'd be absolutely fine that she's going to be 100% safe?
But which parent lets a 14-year-old do that?
Okay, let's say she's
You'll be
16.
surprised.
Let's say she's 16. I'm asking you a question here.
Yeah.
You're beating around the bush here. I'm asking
not.
you, would
You
you
asked me
feel
a
safe?
question.
Would you feel safe? Because I know comparably, if JJ went out and he got on the train, say he got on the metro in Dubai, and I see girls doing this, they go out with their friends, they're wearing whatever they want, and nobody's looking at them in that way. And here,
Again, you're comparing apples and oranges. I think to compare that, you're obviously looking.
no, the simple answer is: do you feel safe? Would you
I
feel
feel
safe?
safe. I feel safe, but comparatively to Dubai, obviously there's no comparison because there's very little crime there.
Okay. So the answer is you
I feel
wouldn't feel
safe.
safe. You wouldn't let her out on her own, right?
No, I wouldn't let anyone. I wouldn't let a 14 or a 16-year-old girl go to London on her own if that was
well,
my
there you
daughter.
go. But
No,
in
but
any
that's
other-
that's not now. That's
No,
I
see,
wasn't allowed to do that when I was.
No, hold on. Don't get out of here, man. Get out of here.
I wasn't
Listen,
allowed to do that.
I saw it the other day, man. When I'm coming off of Loughton Station, I'm seeing a young girl getting on the train wearing a skirt, and I'm thinking to myself, "There's 5 fucking blokes looking at her, and they're old enough to be her dad." You know, it's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
So what was it like when we grew up? Come on, when we grew up in the 90s and stuff, there was still all that about.
I think that time we were dealing with something totally different. We were dealing with fucking racism.
You know, just another point that you made about all these people just looking at people like, well, children or whatever, or younger people. You know, nowadays, yeah, I mean, you can't condone that behavior in any of like way, shape, or form. But people that are younger look older than they used to as well because of how time has kind of gone on. People are, you know, kids are now like 12, 13. They're putting on a full face of makeup going to school.
I get that, but you
Yeah.
can tell a kid from a kid, man. What
Yeah,
I'm
of
saying,
course,
what I'm
of course.
saying to you is a woman feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, they're going to feel uncomfortable if they're subject to that.
Mate, listen, let me tell you something. Yeah, you say a woman feels uncomfortable. You would there's probably around probably 5 or 6 places in the world. Yeah. 5 or 6 places where, I mean, countries. Yeah. I mean, you could have the same thing. Like you said, you'd feel safe about JJ going, first of all, he's a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think even living in Dubai, if it was a girl, I still think you'd be more stricter and you'd have more reservations.
Yeah, but
because I know JJ.
I don't have a daughter, yeah, so I can't comment on this. But what I say to you is, when I look around where I live and I see this age group out late at night, having a milkshake, hanging out with their friends, there is no fear there. Their parents ain't there because it's perfectly safe.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You couldn't do that here. A group of 14-year-old girls, 15-year-old girls couldn't be hanging around having a milkshake without their parents being scared that who the fuck's around.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I just think it's. I do think it's. As a parent, I don't think it's very good. Like you said, you're not really being protective enough if you allow 12, 13, 14-year-olds.
And I think number one reason for that is there's no fucking fear of the law here. Nobody's scared. Nobody's scared, because if you got caught fucking doing something stupid, you know straight away you're not going to prison. You know, you're going to have done something seriously wrong. No one fears the law. You see a copper on the street here and the fucking teenagers are all right, pig, Pepper Pig. You know, you get all that shit. You see a copper down in fucking Dubai, you shit yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a respect there. There's some kind of fear.
I don't believe in that at all. I don't think it's right. I think there needs to be more enforcement from the police, definitely.
I think there needs to be more respect from people to the force, personally, as well. Nobody respects
The
that.
force doesn't do enough, which is why there's disrespect, though, as well. So it's a two-way streak, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, you hear about people like getting mugged, robbed, and there's no repercussions for the people that are subject to that. You know what I mean? Or got away with doing those kind of things.
I think
you go down the Old Bailey, you file a crime reference number, they take it, and then they fuck all afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Simran, what it is also is that you do get a lot of these slap on the wrist now for crimes. That basically the you know, it just moved further and further and further. Whereas it was a slap on the wrist for something like a minor crime, now the slap on the wrist is for a major assault. So that line, that boundary is just moved further and further and further. And then people ultimately don't have respect. I mean, I think that's completely wrong. I think the police are needed. Law enforcement is needed. And I think that, you know, they should have a lot more powers than they do, but that's a topic for another
I reckon
conversation.
they should be able to give someone a slap, personally.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still under
the
the...
just get ridiculed on camera by people.
Yeah.
Someone will try to enforce something. They're getting recorded, name called, anything and everything under the sun.
Someone's, they're being insulted.
And they're the ones that end up looking stupid half the time as well as a result of it. I mean, you get the odd situation where you get people trying to, you know, take advantage of what power they've got here and there. I mean, not so much in the UK, but you do get the odd police officer that is like that as well.
I think police should have guns.
Well, yeah, I agree. Because there is no respect, man.
Well, I mean, knife crime's huge here, right? You know, if guns become an easily accessible thing, if it's just for police, then it's all good and dandy. But, you know, if other people get their hands on things, you know, there's going to be one replacement for another, or double whammy on each sets of crimes: knife crime, gun crime, etc., etc.
I think before, when we grew up, like you said, if there was a bit of trouble, you just have a fight. It was a fist fight. They didn't pull a blade on you.
You shake hands, you say thank you very much.
They never pulled a blade on you. Man. Nowadays, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, and inner cities suffer with this a lot. So the crime that you're referring to, a lot of it is inner city London. Right, yeah. You do get it on the outskirts, on the suburbs, and you know, on the commuter belt, but very, very little.
Not as much.
Most of this, you know, 90+%, most probably, it's all inner city crime, private areas. You know, kids don't really have much of father figures at home or whatever. You know, no control with the parenting, and that's what happens. You know, like that's basically it in inner cities, I think.
Yeah. So what do you guys think, predictions for the budget? Sim?
Labour are going to fuck it, aren't they? I don't think I don't know. My biggest scare is that they introduce the CGT on main reses, and I think it might happen.
Really?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Really?
Yeah,
They're going to try and do it.
It's worrying, isn't it?
yeah.
Just imagine they do that. There has to be uproar.
Yeah.
If they slap CGT on main reses, a lot of people are going to be shitting themselves.
I mean,
it's
it's going to be great for. I was just about to say, it's great for him.
It's good for you, right?
Business is, yeah, fine. But ultimately, you don't want people to have or having something surplus to whatever hardship they've got. I mean, my business is going to boom from it. But I mean, ultimately, you want what's best for everyone, isn't it?
You're probably pushing for it, aren't you? Back in the background, you and your firm's leaders.
You're going to wait. You give it another.
Well, look, if all I want to do is be there to provide solutions in the event the worst occurs.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not wishing for everyone else's situation to go pear-shaped.
And give them a nice invoice too.
Well, if their situation does go pear-shaped, they just got to realise at least there's going to be something or someone there to help them, like myself. I'm not, I mean, you know what? Prior to being in the business that I'm being in, I'd have been just as aggravated as everyone else had that been slapped on me. And you don't want that to be, you know, put on everyone else. I mean, my business is thankfully doing good enough as it is with whatever regiments that are in place, you know? So
the budget is one thing though, guys. The budget is one thing. But you're going to see truly in the next 12, 24 months what the potential this government have to fuck things up royally. You're going to see it live in action.
Really?
Yeah, it's live in action. I don't think it's going to hit.
Prove them wrong. But
And the worst thing is, you know, that all these people that voted for him, I think they're going to realize that they weren't out what they said they were out to be. And I've got no sympathy for anyone who complains.
But don't you think it happens like all the time? A new party comes in, they make a load of fucking promises. They're going to do this, they're going to do this.
It's
They fuck
just
everything and they
yeah.
leave. Somebody else comes in.
It's always the case. Politics that's how it is. People promise whatever they need to promise to get themselves, you know, in the limelight. And then when push comes to shove, everything just gets deferred. It's always the case, regardless of which party it is, be it Tories, be it Labour, whoever else is going to come into power. The thing is, a lot of people are quite fickle when it comes to this. They hear one thing and they hold on to one thing, and that's where votes get driven upon. You know, people don't holistically look at how it's going to affect everything, you know?
I think this is a different in Dubai, isn't it? You've got one person making decisions.
No, that's where I say, Jimbo. There's pros and cons with both, and that's a major plus point. In any country where you've got one person making decisions, like you said, clicking your fingers, you know, 1 second, one minute you might walk out of your house and you just see one lane highway. 3 months later, there's 12 lane interchange built and it's nearing completion. That's the speed of work. That's obviously a benefit of living in a place like that. And obviously, the red tape behind even extending one lane on a motorway in the UK. You know the red tape behind even tarmacking a side street, re-tarmacking a side street.
Fucking cutting your own tree down.
Potholes. But that's in every major developed society. You have that.
Yeah.
New York, you go travel to New York, you can jump in a yellow taxi in the middle of Manhattan, you're bumping up and down on those roads, you get to your hotel, your back's fucked, you can't even, honestly, you see all that because the roads are so bad. In every old developed country, it's the same. And obviously, your infrastructure's a lot stronger where you are. And that's just, touching the surface.
I've said it once before. Well, I've said it many times before. I've said Sheikh Mohammed, he runs that country like a business. And the people that live there are his clients. And those clients need to be kept happy. And he knows what to do. If the people are happy, you're fucking winning, right?
Yeah.
It's when the people are upset that you got a big problem.
Yeah.
And this guy always on the people's side.
Yeah, in this country, when people are elected, they're scared to do anything what they promise because they're always just thinking about re-election in 3, 4, 5 years' time. If you was to ask any prime minister around the world, any president, if you was just a one-term president or one-term prime minister, you had no re-election to worry about. You knew you was there for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, do what you want. you know, whatever ramifications you have from your voter bank, it doesn't matter because you're not up for re-election. Then you'd see some serious change being done.
Yeah.
Problem is now, even in the UK with this Starmer, is he's just going to try and, you know, rally his troops around and just say, right, let's just stick it out for the next few years, you know, and then when it comes to re-election, we've got to win the election again. Whereas you don't have that problem over there.
Mm. Yeah, he's not got gut for his own job, is he? Yeah, and the people love him. You know, you walk around Dubai and there's people have pictures of the sheikh in their house. You know, and which other country can a flipping high-profile royal like that walk the streets or drive his car?
Yeah, but again, credit where it's due. Like I said, I'm not here to knock anything. I'm not here to knock anyone. Credit where it's due. Like, you might think that, and I've said this, you think that, you know, Dubai is a tax-free society. Trust me, you pay your way. Okay, through one thing or another, you're paying. Okay, whether it's in supermarkets, whether it's in health insurance, whether it's you're paying. Okay, but that aside, yeah, even if there was a tax introduced tomorrow in Dubai, but look what the government provides you. Yeah, like I said, look at the infrastructure they provide you. Look at the safety they provide you, which you mentioned. Look at the town, the city they provide for you to live in. Now, he could turn around and say, right, that's it. It's no longer a tax-free society. I'm slapping a 10-20% tax from tomorrow. I guarantee you no one would leave. People would still pay it and live there because he's actually got a reason to tax you and say, look, you know, but what am I giving you, you know, for you to live here? Over here, it's completely the opposite. They tax us more and more and more, but they fucking give us fuck all.
Yeah, true.
Very true.
You know, you could...
I think it's very much a country of vision and leadership, man, you know. And I was saying it yesterday in the presentation. They genuinely want people to do well, man. Like, genuinely. There's no capped level. You've got people that come in from third world countries that have done really, really well. I mean, look at these guys that came in. The guy who started Lulu Supermarket, he's from Kerala, bro. When he came in, he was telling us a story that it used to take him 5 hours by single road truck to go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. He used to sleep on the rooftop where it was hot. He used to spray it with water so he could sleep, so it'd cool down. Now look at him. He's one of the wealthiest men in Dubai right now with his Lulu Supermarket change. And there's many, many stories like that, man, of people that have come from India, Pakistan, south of India, all of these guys. And the country's not restricted them from becoming wealthy, you know, because I think any other country could restrict you from how much you can achieve. You know, first of all, your visa status kicks in, your passport's not right, your race is not right. No, you're not the right person to do this. But many people have made a lot of money in Dubai, man. Very, very wealthy people. I think the country really does push people. And I do think it's because they take all the shit away. You haven't got this government shit to worry about. You haven't got to worry about these taxes. You've not got to worry about inheritance tax. But like you say, they could bring it in, but no, I don't think no one's going to leave.
I think I'm bang on there when I say that. I think he could bring in taxes, and they will come eventually. You have to understand.
We have 9% corporation.
No, that's just come in recently. Yeah. But you will find in time there will be certain taxes which do come in. I mean, at the end of the day, and don't be surprised if they do. And I guarantee you, personally, will not leave if that happens because I know you. I don't think, you know, if it does happen within the time that you're still there, I don't think you'd leave.
Well, I don't know. I'm a tight ass. I don't like paying anything.
We know you're a tight ass.
Oh, man. All right, guys. So lastly, let's talk about this one big topic that's been a top one over discussion over a few cigars and meals for the last few days. And it's been a full meat carnivore diet. Now, I know what Rishi's going to say. I'll let you start, man. You can start.
Right. So first of all, I'm the one who advocated this whole diet to him for the past 2 years.
You never called it a carnivore diet, so I was confused.
1 second. 1 second. I was on this diet multiple times. I was on this carnivore diet multiple times, and the amount of phone calls we had, and I've still got the text message conversations if you want to put them up there, yeah, where I've been telling him what to eat, cut whatever out of your diet. He was like, no, my mentors told me to make sure I keep eating sourdough in the mornings, and I've still got to eat this potatoes. And all of a sudden, he flies to Bali. He spends 15 grand for the trouble, and some Balinese guy tells him, you know, to jump on a carnivore diet, and he's done it. He spent 15 grand for the trouble, and Rishi was telling him for nothing. I was telling him this for 6 months. He never listened. But there you go.
Leave it out.
That's the intro.
But yeah, it's been really, really good. I mean, obviously, you can't comment on this, but it's been very good being on a full meat diet, and it's a high fat diet, right? And like I met Anthony Chafee out in Bali, and he's an advocate for carnivore eating. And when you sit down with this guy and you start speaking to him about certain topics, and you start understanding that shit, man, there's some real benefits to this. You know, you start understanding that certain plants and veg actually give off a lot of poison that you don't even realize about, you know, until you start looking into it further. And this guy, if he was any mumbo jumbo guy, I would have just said, yeah, fuck it. But this guy's a full on neurosurgeon who's pretty trained in everything he does, you know, and for him to be coming out with statements like this, and he's tested it on himself as well, on his own body. And it was great to see some of the results people have had. So for me, I think the biggest thing that happened going meat only was, first of all, was the big inflammation that I've had in my back for years. Like, you know what it was like in the gym. I'd have to spend good 10, 15 minutes in the morning warming up, get the back right. And this guy used to take the piss. He was just like, oh, yeah, it's because you're fucking old, yeah? And it wasn't because I was old. It was literally because there was inflammation in my back.
I wonder how you managed that one.
Diet.
Yeah.
Diet. He's gonna fucking try and come up with a stupid joke now, isn't he? But he's saying, I wonder how you did that one, but he doesn't know what to say next.
Well, inflammation in your back, it leaves the imagination open to interpretation.
It's in my back, not in my butt. Yeah. So anyway, so a week on this diet and stripping everything out and just taking in beef, taking in bone marrow, taking in eggs, and taking in cheese and butter. Bruv, the pain was gone, man. Come on. What else have I done in that week other than change my food intake?
I think what you got to remember is,
and I've had it for years.
So what you're saying, the cause of your inflammation was purely based on all the veg that you were eating then?
There's certain veg that gives you inflammation and you don't even realise. So he was saying to me, when you have green beans, he goes, you don't realise green beans people think is all good for you. Spinach is people think is all good for you. But that kind of thing, first of all, it ferments in your stomach, it's giving you gas at night, and it's giving you inflammation. You know, and certain things that you don't realise you're putting into sugar's a bad one anyway. We all know sugar's a bad one.
That's a given, yeah.
You know, and he goes, salt isn't even that bad. People think salt's bad. He goes,
it's water retention, that's what it is.
In the 30s, they replaced the salt for the sugar and started telling you sugar was good and salt is bad. And that's where fucking shit started to go wrong.
Well, everything in moderation, right?
Yeah, but look, before 1939, I was saying to Rich, there was no cardiovascular diseases, very minimal heart attacks. Then the crop revolution comes in, then processed foods come in. People start changing the way they eat, and what happens? They start getting fucked up.
Yeah. Fair play, but fair play.
Right? Listen, there's a lot of vegan people that, you know, yeah, being vegan is supposed to have its benefits. But long term, you look at a vegan, they're pretty fucked up.
So if you was to compare now, because obviously you was vegetarian at one stage as well, wasn't you?
For a period of time.
For a period of time, yeah. I think it was 1 year, or what was it?
No, about 6 months.
6 months. During that time when you was a vegetarian, what was your health like? So let's just say it takes your body a month, 6 weeks to sort of acclimatize to any sort of dietary changes that you're making, which are quite severe dietary changes. So if you went from being meat to vegetarian, that's severe dietary changes. I'd say 6 weeks for your body to sort of change. So once you was 2 months into that vegetarian diet, up until at the end of it, what was your body like and your health?
Well, it wasn't, my body shape wasn't any better. But one thing I did realize is when you're having potatoes, breads, pastas, all of that stuff, I was getting those constant spikes throughout the day. You know, when you've had your lunch. When you have a lunch, what happens to you?
I mean, I guess this must vary individual to individual, right?
But you do feel a little bit tired, right?
It depends what I've eaten. But yeah, if I'm having stodgy things, then that's the byproduct, right? Of anything that's stodgy.
I realise because when you're on a vegetarian diet, you're going to have some carbs.
Yeah, but the carbs aren't necessarily a bad thing. Carbs are just energy.
Yeah, well, your body produces carbs naturally as well, which is something I didn't realise until I spoke to Chafee about it. But what I'm saying is, if you had if me and you were having a meal, you was having a carb, so say you was just having a bit of carb and a bit of cheese, and I'm having a meat-based meal, I know, I'll say even if it was me having both of those meals, I know when I've had a carby-based meal, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
After. Well, any bread, any rice, if I have a meat-based meal, like all day, my level is just like this. Constant. Like I'm wide-eyed.
But the thing is, yeah, it depends what else you're having alongside that. You know, like if certain fruits, for example, and nuts and whatever else, they'll give you energy source. Like bananas give you potassium. You don't necessarily need to have meat alongside everything else just to maintain that level of energy. You can still have veg and have other sources of food and maintain that level of energy and not be so, lethargic or tired after having just a pure veg or
But what I'm saying is when you're on a veg diet, you're going to have carbs because you can't just stick
it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to maintain a veg diet without carbs.
What the carnivore diet advocates, what they try to preach is that you talk about your insulin levels and you talk about spikes like it was just during the day, right? Yeah. They're trying to say that you basically nullify all those symptoms, and negate everything if you just stick to one type of food that you're eating. So there's no carbs in your diet, there's no veg. So with the carbs, you don't get any bosh, any spikes.
So it's just fats and meat.
Just fats and meat.
Isn't that a keto diet?
I think but don't forget with keto you are allowed other foods as well in with a keto diet, whereas carnivore diet it's very limited. You just literally eat fats and protein sources, whether it's meat, fish, poultry, whatever it is. But I've done it all. I felt great. I felt shit on it all. So I think longevity, you've got to give your body at least 6 months on a particular diet to then comment.
To see the difference.
100%. I've done all these, I've tried everything. But at the end of the day, if you don't hang on to it for at least 4 to 6 months, I don't think you're gonna see the true gains and the true difference in whatever that diet's provided.
But look at some of the players that we were talking about that went fully carnivore, and they were already high performing individuals. Say Dana White, he went full carnivore.
Yeah, but if you look at Dana White, okay. See, if you look at Dana White, if you research a guy called Gary Brecker. Yeah.
10x Health.
Yeah, exactly. So the systemization they have in place with certain types of health systems, Dana White's been through the rigmarole of all that. A lot of his weight loss, is due to 10x health systems and what he's been through, and all the grounding work they do and all the other type of there's so many things like he has to have a cold plunge twice a day, and there's so many other treatments that he has during that day. And by the way, this stuff costs a lot of money. Dana White's a billionaire, right? Yeah, so he can afford it. I don't think what Dana White's doing is purely based on his diet. It's not.
No, I don't say it is 100% because he's.
But then look, at the end of the day,
he's fully biohacked.
Well, one thing you've got to realize is this: for as many advocates as you've got for eating, for example, a carnivore diet,
they'll be just as
you're going to have people in as good shape, feeling as good, with no spikes and dips in any sort of insulin or mood throughout the day, eating just 2 meat and veg.
Yeah.
Or whatever. A meat, 2 veg, sorry.
Even just pure veg, yeah. Because
so, how does their argument have any less relevance than this person's argument?
Okay, let's flip it on the other side then. So there's been loads and loads of studies done where people have been cancer sufferers. They've been going through cancer treatment. And, they tell you to go on this alkaline juice, this red juice, which is supposed to be good for you. But when Chafee was talking about some of the studies that were done on cancer patients where they're terminal and they've gone on a meat-only and a fats-only diet and tumours have shrunk and contained themselves and in certain cases just disappeared completely, you don't see that about people eating some fucking green veg or broccoli. He wasn't talking about any studies like...
Aren't there a lot more reports on meats containing more carcinogenics than general veg?
I guess there are reports, but that's not what I'm saying to you right now. What I'm saying to you is that the report was based on meat-based diets, even vegans going meat-based when they had cancer and their cancer shrinking. So,
I mean, I can't...
That's got to be linked to something, right?
Yeah, but I'm sure it is. I can't speak on that negatively or positively because I'll have to go into that. But I mean, I wouldn't disbelieve it.
If that's what I'm saying. If he was any mumbo jumbo guy, then it's difficult. Then it's different. But when you're a fucking neurosurgeon and you're operating on people's brains and you've studied this shit, it's a different story, right? Because there's credibility behind it.
I mean, I guess you're right in that sense. I mean, look, but listen,
this is disregarding your you know, that the meat diet's good for you, but it's not to say that you can't achieve the same things on other diets, right?
I just think, look, if try every diet, but you give yourself 6 months.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
No, but try everything, but give yourself 6 months. Obviously, if you're vegetarian, you can't do but try what you can, and whatever works for you individually. Don't forget, whatever works for you might not necessarily work for me or him. So if you found something that works for you, then just stick to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like, but what I was saying, I think the most eye-opening thing for me was the studies that he was talking about. Forget the weight loss, forget about feeling great. It was the studies where they've put people on these diets where they've got terminal illnesses.
That is quite mad.
And where they,
you,
okay, let me ask you a question, Sim. You're a vegetarian, right?
Yeah.
God forbid you had something go wrong with you tomorrow and somebody said to you, okay, going on a meat-only diet will fucking extend your life.
Yeah, then you would do it.
Would you do it?
I would do it. I mean, the thing is, people are vegetarian for numerous reasons, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, family-wise, I was brought up that way.
Yeah.
Right? And I may have dabbled here and there in terms of meat, but predominantly for the duration of my life, I've been a vegetarian.
You're a meat dabbler, are you?
Not as much as you. But I think the thing is, when it
I'm just look, it's a hypothetical, it's a question now, right? Yeah. Like if you were there and some doc saying to you, Sim.
See, the thing is,
but doctors aren't.
If I know that, this is aiding my life, and for the purpose of aiding my life and being able to live longer, then I would do it. Some people, they're animal lovers. They're never ever going to do it, right? Like I said, I'm vegetarian as a result of family upbringing, right? So for me, I would do it in the event that I know I'm in a shit situation. I need to get better. Yeah. I think for the purpose of health, it's not wrong to disregard consuming it.
Yeah.
Look, doctors are never going to recommend go meat only.
No, they're going to tell you to go chemo.
There's more money in cancer treatment than there is in a ribeye, mate. So they're never going to say. They're never going to say, look, stop coming here. Yeah, just go into Costco's and pick up a big
bit of meat,
big block of meat, and start eating it.
The other ironic thing is, like the doctor said to me, he goes, like, if you're ever diagnosed with any kind of condition, don't go and see a doctor about it, because the doctor has a certain system.
And I just mentioned, you mentioned Dana White.
Yeah,
since he started Gary Brecker's health systems,
with
10x, he refuses to go to see a doctor now, because a doctor, and if you watch the pod, I'll send you the link. The doctors were telling him for years and years, he had pains in his legs. Dana White, he couldn't bend down and do his shoelaces. He was gasping for air in the middle of the night. He had really bad snoring problem. He had to sleep in separate rooms. It was quite bad, yeah? And the doctors were giving him X, Y, Z, this, that, and the other. And then obviously, Brecker done that test on him, what 10x do. And they said, you got like 8 years or 10 years to live. They predict when you're going to die. They predict your mortality your mortality year.
Yeah.
And they tell you, look, just give us 6 months. Make these changes, eat these foods, take these supplements, and we'll change your life. And a lot of it is obviously the specialized treatment that 10x and Brecker offer. But a lot of it is diet. But yeah, I mean, that, and then he's not even a doctor, Brecker, you know that. He's not a doctor, though. Okay. So he's a
biohacker.
Yeah,
he's a scientist, isn't he?
So, but then again, think of it this way. Put yourself in the shoes of an MD. Okay? Put yourself in the shoes of a surgeon or a doctor or a medical professional that spent 15 years in university, spent 500 grand in all the best for school fees and university fees, and then having some idiot like Brecker, for example, debunk all your shit and go against everything that you've ever been taught. You're obviously going to get your back up as well as a doctor. So doctors around the world, the reason why so doctors are smart. They're going to potentially know, but doctors have been taught all their lives to read off a script and to read from a textbook. If someone comes into you with a pain in his knee, you know what it's going to be. Okay, this is this. There you go. That's your medication. At the end of the day, doctors still run through a certain textbook process, right?
I think specifically NHS doctors, because if you go private for a specific issue, you're going to have a doctor that's dedicated to that specific, realm of what it is, be it, cardiology or diabetic or, if you've got specific issues in pain in certain areas, there's going to be someone dedicated for that. Whereas if you're going to, someone who's a general NHS doctor, they're going to go through their textbook procedures, and you want someone who's going to have like a bespoke look at things, right? So, Yeah.
No, it's look, when you said to me that no, you shouldn't go to a doctor, you should always investigate alternative medicine or treatments. And I got a friend right now whose mum's going through cancer, and he's doing exactly the same thing. He's found a doctor in Sweden. He's looking at alternative medicine, and there's been proven track record that they might not get better from it, but it prolongs their life a little bit longer. So there's certain things you can do to make these things better for yourselves. And I think this whole biohacking thing right now, what Gary Brecker does, red light therapy, cryo chamber, UV drips, all of this stuff, measuring your levels.
You mentioned that Be Superhuman does the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Jag at Be Superhuman. He's got in Upminster. He does exactly. I'm speaking to him tomorrow. Actually, he does exactly the same thing. Big advocate on biohacking, man. I walked into his place. I said, Jag, I got really bad fucking headaches for the last 3 days. And he goes, let me see your sleep data, because he saw my Aura ring. Bro, he looked at me, he goes, dude, this is fucked up. He goes, number one thing you can do in this world without even trying to make yourself better is sleep.
Yeah.
And have a good night's sleep. Make sure your room's cold.
You've been always telling me you're an idiot for getting up that early and going to the gym.
Yeah, well, I was an idiot who used to join you as well, But I think you're right now, you're getting older, you got more responsibility. How intense your job is when you're doing deals, you've got multiple figures running around in your head. You'd need that downtime where you sleep properly. I think when we're in our 20s, early 30s, it was possible, man. It's possible to do that. But when he said, he's not the only person to say this to me. He goes, lack of sleep is slowly killing you day by day. And I'm looking at Jag's sleep data. Jag's showing me his sleep data. He's hitting 90, 88 optimal sleep. All in the blue levels, HRVs, all right. And he said to me, James, you need to this is the thing you should be fuck your business. You should be working on this. He goes, if in the evening you're going sleep 1.5 hours later than you normally do because something's come up, in the morning your schedule should be to cancel gym and to stay into bed until you make up your hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And having good sleep hygiene, making sure your bed is cool, making sure the temperature's cool. It should be cold. You should feel cold in your bed. Making sure you're not eating a few hours before. We all know this.
Yeah, these are the basics.
Blockers, not looking at your screen, making sure your room's completely pitch black. When I mean pitch black, even if you've got a little red light on a plug, that should be covered up. All of this little stuff,
These are all things that I guess will distort it, right?
A couple of the guys that I met in Bali, they wear mouth tape, so they're only snoring so they're breathing through their nose, which is what you should be doing. You breathe through your nose, you have a better night's sleep. There's actual mouth tape that goes on. Some of them would wear earplugs. Some of them have got flipping blockers on, or eye shields and all of that.
I think with the weather in the UK at the moment, talking about cold night, it's as temperatures have been increasing as well, it's probably more and more difficult. I guess that's one of the benefits of Dubai is everyone's got bloody AC in it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to lie, I found it difficult sleeping. I was saying to him it was quite hot, but he's saying, when you open the window, you do open the window, but like you say, when you get used to a certain temperature sleeping, even a few degrees up.
So what's your AC set at?
19.
19 all the way?
19 at night. It's 19. Sometimes Gertie turns it up to 20, but generally it's 9, and it is cold. It's like you have to put your duvet on. And then I've got a mattress, which is a cold mattress. So whenever you touch it, it's cold. It's never warm. And in my pillows, I've got cold pillows. IKEA do these special pillows. But all of these little things are done to try and get a good night's sleep, to try and improve the sleep.
Yeah.
I think that hustle mentality where we think you got to keep hustling, and you fucking forget to sleep. That's the number one thing sending you early grave.
As they say, health is wealth. So, yeah, Hops, just on what you were talking about, all the issues people are having to go through in terms of cancer and how there's so many risk elements now that people are subject to. It's a big thing people are missing out. 1 in 2 people, as you mentioned, nowadays are getting diagnosed with cancer. And it's one of those things you want to get ahead of before it occurs. Because, if you don't have provisions in place, the cost of cancer, I think, roughly works out to I was reading some statistics, I think Legal in General put out. They said when you incorporate adaptations to your house, going to and from the hospital daily, petrol and parking, etc., the cost of having cancer works out around about £900 a month. A lot of people can't part with that in any way, shape or form. So I guess one of the things that's probably worth mentioning is knowing how frequently people are becoming subject to critical illnesses such as cancer, stroke, heart attacks, etc., is having some form of critical illness cover in place. You know, because in the event something like that does occur and you don't have the means to pay that £900 a month average, you know, for paying a small premium on a policy, when it does happen, at least you can do it without having to break the bank.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I always say to people, like, when I talk about life insurance or critical illness cover, I always say, if you drop dead today, what situation is your wife and the kids going to be in?
Yeah.
And that's when people look at you and think, fuck, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
And I don't even sell life insurance. You know, that's how I sell it to people when I'm talking about it. Because you can't look. First of all, your wife is going to be mourning, or the husband's going to be mourning. I don't know. Husband might be happy if his wife dies, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't know why you two are fucking smiling. I've got a sad face on here. But anyway, like, you know, one partner dies, the other one is going to be mourning. First of all,
yeah, of
if you got a couple of kiddies lying around and you got a fucking mortgage, you got car finance, whatever. Last thing you want is to be worried about that.
Yeah, of course. And this is why people need to get their shit in gear. Now, half the time, people are taking out a mortgage on two people's salaries, and what they don't realise is if one person's salary is gone, they can't afford their mortgage no more.
Yeah.
You know? It's a necessity. It needs to be thought about right from the outset. People only think about their house. Yeah. The reality is, for most people, it's a small fragment of what they'd pay on their mortgage.
Yeah.
And I am like completely flabbergasted when people say to me, I don't want to spend 20 quid a month just to make sure everyone else is, you know, the mortgage is satisfied and, you know, my family can live without any stress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people just don't give a shit.
I think the sad reality is the old adage, you could take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
All this is incorporated into our advice. Everything streamlined all the way. Everything is explained to you. The same thing, the same time client says to you, yeah, okay, I'm going to think about this. We're going to do it. You know, this is good advice. Rish, Simran, you know, we both incorporate this into our advice. Look, at the end of the day, you can't hold a gun to someone's head and say, you need this, you sign on the dotted line. You need the client to see the light, but that's where you need to speak to a professional who explain each and every intricacy of the criteria. If you don't understand, okay, critical illness cover, Rish, cancer treatments, this, that. What sort of cancers do I have to be diagnosed with in order for me to do this? Is there an enhanced version available? Yes, there is. Yeah. So these are conversations that you got to have with the particular client. And sort of explain to him, okay, is there anything in the family like cholesterol, blood pressure? Is there cancer in the family? Sometimes with women, the advice is different. You know, has there been like quite a few adverse cervical smears and stuff like that? So that you've got to obviously look at everything individually. But then again, you know, you do get, and I'm sure you've had it, you know, some people, you're right, you know, they think, why do I want to pay 20, 30, 40? And when you're young, it's the worst. Because when you're young, you're going out and spending £150 a night in a pub, yeah. Whereas this it's the cheapest time in your life
to ensure
you're going to get covered. And I'm talking top high end cover. You know, you could literally, even if there was to go through like medical evidence reports needed and et cetera, you're going to have nothing wrong with you. You're going to sail through underwriting and you're going to be, and literally it's the best time to get insured.
Yeah. I think it's worth just touching on that. Because people don't realize in order to obtain life insurance, they got to go through a health questionnaire, right? So the premiums are based on how healthy you are. If you're healthy, it's the bloody time to do it. And even if you're unhealthy, you need to get something in place because you're only going to potentially either get unhealthier. You know what I mean? If you let things ride out too long, I mean, hopefully you don't get unhealthy and you get healthy. But for those that are unhealthy, they're going to get that based on that premium.
You could still get insured. You could still get life insurance if you've got existing medical conditions, if you're a smoker, even if you have certain conditions that are in remission. Cancer survivors can get life insurance.
After 5 years on average. Three to 5 years
after
on
3
average.
to 5 years in average. If you've had a heart attack in the past, a lot of people, see, at the end of the day, I always say this to clients, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You could come to us and you'll be surprised at the level of cover you could get.
Yeah.
And just another point, you know, going back to being youthful. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm young. I don't necessarily need it right now. I'll wait till I'm older. Then before you know it, they come back in 10, 15 years and they've got a host of health problems.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my clients will say this to me. Yeah. Oh, I wish I met you 20 years ago. Or I wish I met you 15 years ago. I mean, a lot of our clientele tend to be, Indians, Punjabis, Gujaratis, Sindhis, and other communities.
And then
they all got, well, three things in common: blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you haven't got it and you're from that, community, now's the bloody time to get it. Otherwise, you're going to get double
why aren't they on the
premium.
carnivore diet? They'll never have any of this.
Listen, look, to wrap this up, I can only say one thing. And Sim said it earlier. Health is wealth. Yeah, we all know that. And lastly, if your health isn't your wealth, go and get yourself fucking some decent cover so that you know your wealth is protected. If you can't do it naturally, go and pay somebody to look after you. There's no point hustling all these years, building up such good portfolios, leaving everything to your fucking kids. Number one, if you haven't got the most simplest thing as life insurance, that's the simplest thing you can do, yeah? And then the next simplest thing is making sure you guys have fucking got some kind of inheritance planning so that you're keeping your wealth at the end of the day.
Yep. And it's just on that point, there's a lot of people that aren't aware of what they can do when it comes to planning. People think, a lot of people, they die intestate. And what that means is they die without having any planning in place. And then what people realize is at that point, shit, everything's now in the hands of the law to distribute my wealth. But there are things that we can do, such as a deed of variation. So a deed of variation is the ability to write a will beyond someone's demise. So, for example, if they've got tax issues where they'd have to pay that 40%, they can come to us within 2 years from that person dying, and we can reallocate that wealth to a trust as opposed to it going to that individual. If it goes to a trust, they're going to get the following benefits. They're going to be protected from divorce. They're going to be protected from creditors. And it's ring fencing all of that wealth, you know? So whereas, better to have your planning done right before you die, but there are options for even in those extreme circumstances that we can do things. So people need to realize and know that, when the end has come, there are options as well. We don't want it to come to that point, but,
that deed of variation is so important, and a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah.
When someone dies and the laws of intestacy come into place, and you have to...
You might have an ex-wife that you've...
Exactly, yeah.
You might have an ex-wife, right, who's... this is more of a pre-death planning thing than a post-planning thing, that if you don't have in place, she might come for your wealth if you've got nothing in there because she's still married to you. A lot of people are still married but separated and don't realise how their things are going to end up.
Yeah.
50%, well, the first 322 grand of your wealth will go to whoever your spouse is on paper.
Sure.
And you need to have, if you're one of those people in that situation where you're separated and not officially divorced, you need to be having these conversations 100%.
So, boys, thank you so much. It was a lovely podcast, some really, really deep conversations there, some good topics picked up. And I think we'll leave it with the whole thing of we started with planning to protect your wealth, and we'll end it with planning to protect your wealth. And on that note, if anybody listening wants to speak to, say, someone like Rish who deals in all of these policies, or, you've got some kind of mortgage issues, finance issues that you want to speak to him about, he's your guy. And the guy on this side, Simran, he's going to be the guy you're going to speak to about all your tax planning, your legacy planning, and, making sure that King Charles doesn't get hold of half of your wealth, really. Yeah?
100%.
So how can they reach you? Instagram?
So my handle is at Your Legacy Guardian on Instagram. We've got a booking feature on there as well to book any appointments.
Okay.
So, yeah, tag me in this video as well.
Yeah, sure, I will do. And Rish, yours?
Yeah, Rishi Sudra on Instagram. We will actually be starting recording a lot more content with me and Simran to provide this sort of insightful information so it can help you guys. And we'll put links in the description on this as well. And hopefully see you guys soon.
Yeah, thank you guys again for joining us on another episode of the J2 Hub podcast.